Welcome back to another episode of Dugout Talk. You're joined by the two of us, as you are every single day. By this point, I hope you know our names, Cameron and
Steven.
yep. All right, we'll just kind of jump right into it today. We'll start off, give some well wishes to Mike Bell of the Minnesota Twins. We found out yesterday that he is battling cancer. What kind of cancer did you say it was?
It's kidney cancer.
Kidney cancer. So Mike Bell, best wishes. The baseball community's behind you. We'll be rooting for you the whole way through. We look forward to seeing some positive news in the recent future.
Absolutely.
All right. So we going to cover a little bit of baseball history today. Now, on the surface, this doesn't look like that big of a headliner. Today in 2010, which actually is already 11 years ago, which is crazy to think. But today in 2010, Ken Griffey Jr., 39 at this point, decided to sign a one-year contract with the Seattle Mariners for his final season in the major leagues. Considered playing with the Braves, who were closer to his family, but in the end, he decided to go back to Seattle, end it where it started. And when I found out the short list of guys who have done this in their careers, it shocked me. Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, and Hank Aaron. Three of the five or six best baseball players of all time, all choosing to go back to the city with which they started. Now, obviously, with Babe Ruth, a different. It was a different team. It was still the same city, but it was a different team. He went to play with the Boston Braves instead of, obviously the Red Sox, but he did play in the city that he started in. So I thought that was a very interesting factoid that I found.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I always like it when guys do that. I know like the one day
Mm-hmm.
contract thing is a really popular thing to do. I
Yeah.
always enjoy seeing players do that. I wish more guys would do it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
My day in history is actually, this one really struck out to me. We're both pretty big history buffs for the most part.
Yep.
Um, but mine happened today in 1960, 61 years ago. Los Angeles Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley purchased the Chavez Ravine area, hence where the nickname for Dodger Stadium, also known as Chavez Ravine, is where Dodger Stadium currently sits today. He purchased it for $494,000, even though the property was only valued at
Wow.
$92,000. And actually, and I think we're actually going to do an episode on this later on
Mm-hmm.
in spring training, but there's kind of a dark history that surrounds Dodger Stadium and Chavez Ravine. The Dodgers moved to LA in 1959. They were playing at the Coliseum for the first few years they were in the city. Um, and during this time, when the Chavez Ravine area was purchased, the area itself was mostly inhabited by Mexican immigrants. Now, during this time in American history, um, we were systematic racism was really big just all over, and it wasn't just the
Oh
African
yeah.
American community, it was the Latino community as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yep.
Even so much so that the Latino community was pretty much forced out of the United States, whether even if they were citizens. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
the exact years for when this was happening, but it was happening around this time. And because of the purchase of Chavez Ravine, a lot of pretty much all these Mexican Latino families they were forced out of their homes. The whole area was pretty much demolished just to make Dodger Stadium. Now here's a map layout of kind of what the area
Oh,
looks
okay.
like. As you can see, Dodger
Hmm.
Stadium is right there in the center, but then you've got like the LA River, the Golden State Freeway was over. Silver Lake is up in the top left. So this was pretty much this whole area was what Chavez Ravine and Dodger Stadium. I didn't put a modern picture up. I probably should have, but
Mm-hmm.
Dodger Stadium's in the middle, and they just got parking lots all around in this area, essentially. And this whole area was taken
Hmm.
out just to build a ballpark. Um, Yeah, there's kind of some dark history around it, and like I said, we're going to explore this a little later on in another episode. I think I thought this was kind of neat, but is also very revealing of what our country kind of was during this time. That
Hmm.
an owner had the power to take out a whole neighborhood just to build a ballpark, and pay like five
Wow, that's
times
crazy.
more than what it was valued at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my little
Do we
day.
know? Do we know why he paid 5 times the value?
I couldn't find a reason for it.
Okay.
If I had to guess though, it probably was because he could take this whole neighborhood. That's just my.
Yeah.
I don't have any inside knowledge of that. I can. Hopefully we'll find some more information on it before the episode.
Yeah, that'd be
But
awesome.
um, yeah, so that's my day in history for you.
Yeah. Yeah, not everything in the history of baseball has always been, sunshine and happy days. So,
No, not at all.
all right. We do have the St. Louis Cardinals today to cover. They finished second place last season, finishing with a 30-28 record, which when you think of how many games they missed due to COVID early in the year, it's crazy to think that not only did they get 58 games in, but they won over half of those games. Uh, Looking at some of their subtractions, it's unfortunate to see Dexter Fowler go. I know Cardinals fans are very love hate relationship with Dexter Fowler, um, as were Cubs fans, as were I'm sure Rockies fans, as were I'm sure Astros fans. He's formed a lot of love hate relationships in his MLB career, but he's still at least a semi decent ball player. Brad Miller, the infielder, I believe he just signed with Philadelphia a few days ago, um, just to be a utility infielder. If you look at some of their additions that they've had, Max Moroff figures to be a relatively decent piece for them this year. Um, Nolan Arenado, Nolan Arenado, just one of the two or three best third basemen in baseball. Uh, he's coming to join the Cardinals, forming a super team. Their infield is star studded. When you think you have Paul Goldschmidt at first base, now Nolan Arenado at third base. It doesn't even matter who you have at shortstop and second base. That infield's going to be pretty slick. What were your thoughts, kind of how their offseason has gone to this point?
First of all, I didn't realize how quiet their offseason had been pre Arenado.
Yeah.
Considering that they really only lost Dexter Fowler and Brad Miller, the team is going to pretty much look the same, with the exception of Arenado being on the team now. Um, I remember when the Arenado trade was going down, and I think when it became official, someone on Twitter posted how Arenado and Fowler were going to be reuniting. And then about 20 minutes
Mm-hmm.
later, Fowler got traded. So,
It was the St. Louis. It was the St. Louis Cardinals. They
mhm,
posted. Yep, they posted a
yeah.
picture.
And then they ended up trading him to the Angels.
Yep.
Yeah, I think really the Cardinals are kind of that team. I like to think of them as the Yankees of the National League. They're a team that does
Mm-hmm.
not lose, even when even when they don't have the best product on the field. They're still competitive. They still find a way to be in postseason talks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for crying out loud, they won a World Series, winning only 83 games one year. So
Yeah.
this team has a magic touch to them. And not to say the last couple of years, I think have been legit. I think they've had, 2019 was legit. Last year, obviously, they had that COVID outbreak and it really messed up their
Mm-hmm.
season. But I think this team is going to be really good, even with the addition of Arenado, even though that's really the only thing they've done this offseason. Um, I noticed though they do have some injuries, at least on the pitching staff. One guy
Yep.
notable that they're not going to have this year is Dakota Hudson. He had Tommy John surgery,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a blow for them. But they still have a really solid team. And Arenado does
Absolutely.
provide a boost at third base over Matt Carpenter.
Yeah.
Carpenter's really fallen
Yeah.
off the last couple of years. He went from being one of the
Yeah.
better hitters in the league to not as great, and now it looks like he's going to be a bench player for them. Um,
Yeah.
I think I like what the Cardinals have been. I like what the Cardinals did in getting Arenado. They're making a statement to the rest of the league. Um, but again, it's like we've been saying all week. This NL Central is very much up for grabs. Like anything can happen.
Yep.
Even though the Cardinals have the elite infield with Goldschmidt and Arenado headlining it, um, it's baseball. It's 162 games.
Oh
Anything
yeah.
can absolutely happen. And the Arenado thing is really the only thing the Cardinals have done. And other than that, they have the same team as they did last year, which only got them 2 games above 500. And again, I know it was a
Yeah.
60 game season, but you still got to look at the numbers. Um, but I can't ever rule the Cardinals out, even though they've had a really quiet offseason, minus the Arenado deal. Can never rule them out. I think what they did is just fine. They're kind of one of those teams. If they don't have a busy offseason, it's not going to affect them because they know how to get the
Mm-hmm.
most out of their players and they know how to develop talent. So it seems like they've always got a pool of guys coming through. And even looking at what they're at least looking through fan graphs, um, it does look like they're going to have a lot of youngsters again on the team this year, getting bench roles, consistent playing time. So it's not like they really needed to go out and get reinforcements because, like I said, they're one of the best teams at developing young talent. So they can
Mm-hmm.
get away with literally only making one move over the course of an off season. So um, yeah, I'm excited for them. I think this is going to be a fun year for Cardinals fans. It's going to be uh, a depressing year for some other fan bases, I think. But
Yep.
this is good. They didn't need to go out and make splash deals or anything like that. They can be this quiet and probably still be the division winners, in my opinion.
Yeah, to think that they, a lot of times when teams, have an off season like this, it's a couple minor losses, a couple minor gains, and they kind of go side to side. For the Cardinals, yeah, they've had minor losses, but in terms of amount of players acquired, they've had minor gains. But because you're getting a Nolan Arenado, they're basically going to be the same team they've been the last two or so seasons. Um, but they have Aaron Nolan out and Nolan Arenado now,
Yeah.
so I think it's going to be a fantastic year for them. Um, I don't think they're going to be like a 100 win team, but I think they could get relatively close, assuming that their pitching staff lives up to expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, we will jump into some lineups. I set mine up relatively simply, kind of looking at it really right-handed heavy. It's an issue that there's a couple teams that have, uh, but in my opinion, if you have a good lineup and you have good hitters in that lineup, it doesn't really matter if they're right or left-handed. If you can hit, you can hit. If you can hit righties and hit lefties, you'll. It doesn't matter if you're right, left, or switch hitter. So I have the switch hitter Tommy Edman playing second base, leading off. I know Cardinals fans are really excited for him. He kind of got some of that magic last season, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how he continues along this year. I've got Nolan Arenado hitting second. I know that might be a little high for some people, but I think because of how good of a hitter he is, you want to get him as many at bats as possible. I have Paul DeYoung right behind him, just so that you can split up Arenado and Goldschmidt. You don't have to face them back to back. It gives some protection for Goldschmidt, and so I have Goldschmidt hitting cleanup, playing first base. I have Dylan Carlson, the right fielder, hitting fifth. Hitting sixth, I have the left fielder, Tyler O'Neill. Hitting seventh, I have Harrison Bader, the center fielder. Hitting eighth, I have the catcher, Yadi Molina. And then I have the pitcher spot rounding it out. Now, real quick, um, the Cardinals, I guess now formerly the Cardinals single A short season affiliate, the State College Spikes, are my local team. I go to a few games of theirs every single season. Harrison Bader I've seen play there, and he was a stud. Actually, real quick, I know we're gonna cover them tomorrow, but the Cubs relief pitcher, Rowan Wick,
Yeah.
the relief pitcher for the Cubs,
Yeah.
he he absolutely took State College by storm when he was there in the Cardinals system. He was a third baseman, and he like led the New York Penn League in home runs. Like the dude,
Really?
it was oh yeah, it was crazy. I might have a newspaper still of him somewhere around here, but yeah, Rowan Wick was like the face of State College. He could probably come here at any point in time and not pay for a meal. The
Wow.
fans loved him. Yeah, he filled up the stadium. He hit for a high average, hit a bunch of home runs. But yeah, I'll talk more about him tomorrow.
And he became a relief pitcher of all things.
And he yeah, once he got called up, I don't know what it was. I don't know if his bat just didn't play or if he changed something or if pitchers figured something out on him. But he plummeted as a hitter once he got
Mm,
called up to high A, and so he eventually did become a relief pitcher and a really successful one at that.
yeah. So I've got the same guys in my lineup, just the order is different. I do have Tommy Edman as the leadoff man at second base. And honestly, you brought up a good point. Edman has been a really nice addition for them since 2019. And I
Hmm.
think because of this, it made the Cardinals' decision to not re-sign Colton Wong a little easier. Um, and honestly, I don't think Wong. And I just realized I forgot to put him in the addition subtractions thing, but I don't think Wong
Oh yeah.
is a huge loss necessarily. I mean, he was a pretty heavy presence for that team for several years. Um, had some big moments with the team, but honestly, Tommy Edmonds got second base locked up, in my opinion. I feel very
Hmm.
comfortable with him, and I think the Cardinals feel very comfortable with him being the everyday guy. So I've got him as the leadoff man at second base. I have Dylan Carlson batting second in right field, and I am very hyped on Carlson. I know he had a short
Okay.
stint of games last year. He's the number one prospect in the system right now. I think this guy is due for maybe a rookie of the year kind of season, uh,
Wow.
especially if he gets the playing time that they're expecting. There's a part of me that kind of feels like he could have a Trevor Story breakout because Trevor Story absolutely dominated the league during his 2016 season. I can see the same happening for
Hmm.
Carlson, at least for the first couple of months until pitchers and teams start to figure him out. Um, I'm really high on this guy. I think he's going to be a good presence at the top of the order. I've got him hitting two. Paul Goldschmidt, I've got him hitting third. And a note real quick, you had Arenado hitting second in the lineup. When the Cardinals first got Goldie, he was hitting second pretty
Hmm.
consistently in the lineup. So I could easily see that happening too. But I also think if you have Goldschmidt and Arenado back to back, pitchers can't pitch around one guy just to face the other. It's unless if they're
Yep.
willing to put two guys on base and risk maybe getting runs scored on them, but I doubt they're going to do that.
Hmm.
So I've got Goldie
Yeah.
hitting third. Nolan Arenado got him hitting cleanup. I think cleanup's a good spot for him in the lineup to start off. Maybe move him up. You could even flip Goldie and Arenado around over the course of the year if you really wanted to. If you're Mike Schilt, Yadier Molina, the veteran catcher, got him hitting fifth. Paul DeYoung, the shortstop, I got him hitting sixth. He's kind of a good bottom of the order guy who can hit for power. He may not hit for a high
Hmm.
average. I
Yep.
think he hit 250 last year, which isn't terrible. But I think him being more of kind of like a power hitting shortstop rather than a batting average guy, he's a little better for the bottom of the order. Tyler O'Neill in left field, I got him hitting seventh. His father was Mr. Canada back in the day. And I don't know if you've seen a picture of Tyler O'Neill, but he's got a big physique. He's a very, very strong guy, just all around. This guy's capable of probably hitting 30 homers in a season, too. So if he's healthy this year, I'd like to see that. I'm rooting for him this year to kind of have a breakout. And then Harrison Bader, the center fielder, I've got him hitting eighth. And by the way, Harrison Bader can put on a show during batting practice.
Yeah.
Um, and it really surprised me. The Cardinals were in Denver a couple years ago. It was actually for Players Weekend.
Okay.
I decided to go to the game because I had a deal on the Game Time app, the one where you can buy the tickets.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
had a deal where I could get free tickets, so I got free tickets to this game or wanted to this game
What
tonight. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Um,
is that like a real quick? Is that like a good app? I've heard about it, but
Yeah, it is a good app. You can find some
okay.
relatively cheap seats. Even for like primetime games, I've been able to sneak by with like $10 tickets for seats 10 rows up from
Wow.
the field. So if you know what to look for, yeah, I recommend it. This isn't a sponsor thing, by the way. Just
No, I wish it
but
was because we'd be
yeah,
getting paid.
but game time is a good app to use if you're looking. But anyway, at this game, I like to go show up to the ballpark a couple hours early because I like to watch batting practice. But I also like to walk around the ballpark because when the game starts, I sit through the whole game. I don't get up or anything like that.
Hmm.
And I was watching the Cardinals batting practice, and Harrison Bader. I didn't know it was him at the time, but then I asked a Cardinals fan because this guy was hitting absolute rockets to dead center field over the fountains that they have at
Wow.
Coors. And I was like, "Who is this guy?"
Hmm.
And the guy told me, "Oh, that's Harrison Bader." And I was like, "The rookie?" I said, "Yeah, that's him." I was like, "Dude can't even hit. He can't hit in a big league game. What is he doing hitting for all these 500-foot bombs over here?"
Yeah.
Uh,
Jeez.
so yeah, this guy can hit for power too. He's a sneaky kind of bottom of the order guy. But he's got a great glove too. He's just an all around really good player. I just think the bat
Yeah.
needs to come around for him. Anyway, I've got him
Oh
hitting
yeah.
eight, and then pitcher spot. I've got the pitcher spot due ninth.
Yeah, I mean, either way that you fit it up, I think as long as you have Paul Goldschmidt and and Nolan Arenado in the first four hitters, you essentially you're set. You can almost set that lineup up any other way. Uh, Looking at how their rotation figures to set up, I really like where they're at. Jack Flaherty, I don't think he's got any hard feelings. I know that he was less than pleased with his arbitration. um, I'm sure that the Cardinals had some less than ideal things to say about him in order to try to win that case. It's unfortunate that that side of baseball has to happen, but it gives him a good chip on his shoulder. I'm really high on Jack Flaherty. I think he's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be a top of the line pitcher, a lot like what Adam Wainwright's career has been. Like I said, I think he's going to be great. Um, Obviously, what Adam Wainwright, I have him in the two spot. It is possible that you could move him down a little bit in the rotation, but I still think he's got plenty of big games left in him this season to be the number two. I have Carlos Martinez, who has found his way back to the rotation. Thankfully, I've always loved him more as a rotation guy than a bullpen piece. Glad that he's locked a rotation spot down again. Miles Michaelis, um, who kind of captured baseball by storm a couple of years ago. It's kind of regressed to the average a little bit since then, but still figures to be a relatively decent arm for them. And then Kwang Hyung Kim, um, the southpaw, the the southpaw. I have him as the number five. I know it is possible that he could move up. He was spectacular last season in the few appearances that he made, but I kind of I'm willing to bet that he's not going to continue to pitch to a sub 2 ERA. I value Flaherty and Wainwright, Martinez and Michaelis a little bit more, being that they've got more service time, I guess you could say. They have
Mm-hmm.
more experience. But obviously, it's very possible that Kim could find himself in the top three of that rotation. He could find himself pitching really important games in October again this season.
Something interesting with the Cardinals is they actually have, right now, it looks like they're going to have a pretty heavily veteran rotation. Just kind
Mm-hmm.
of looking at what we both have, but they have some youngsters who are capable of being starters as well. Um, had Dakota Hudson not needed Tommy John, he'd be the youngster in this rotation. Um, but I think even looking at this, the Cardinals are in good position even beyond this year. If these guys like Adam Wainwright, for example, don't come back, they've got a young core of guys ready to come up and make starts. And even if they deal with injuries this year, they have a good group of young guys that are ready to come up. Jack Flaherty, I've got him as the ace, and I think this can be a year for Flaherty to show the Cardinals why he deserves a contract. If he puts up another good year, if he's in Cy Young talks, I think the Cardinals would be well within reason to offer this guy some kind of deal. I know the ARB
Mm-hmm.
hearing didn't go that great, but I don't think there's any hard feelings there either. Because it's just the business side of baseball. Business in baseball is very brutal. So I've got him as the ace. Kwang Hyun Kim, like you said, he was very spectacular last season. I've got him as the number 2 guy right now. Adam Wainwright, got him as the number 3. He's had a little bit of a resurgence the last couple of years, which has been nice to see. I'm glad to see that he's kind of pulling a CC Sabathia a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So happy to see him back on higher ground. Carlos Martinez, I've got him as the number 4. I'm hoping that he can find himself again in the rotation and be that good, really good starter that he was for all those years early on in his career. And then Miles Michaelis, we got him as the number 5. And you're right, he did take the league by storm a couple years ago when he returned from, I believe it was Korea from the KBO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was a Texas Rangers product for a while. Went to KBO for a few years, came back, had a really dominant 2018. 2019 wasn't as dominant. Didn't pitch last year because of
Mm-hmm.
injury. I'm looking for him to bounce back again this year too. I think the Cardinals are pretty set on their rotation. I think this could be a really good one. And even if things don't go as planned, like I said, they got young guys in their in who are expected to be in the bullpen at least who can come up and take over rotation spots if they absolutely need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this figures to be, like we mentioned, it figures to be a veteran rotation. Kim is even what, like 32 or something like that, I
Yeah, he's
believe.
32.
When I was checking him out. So yeah, it figures to be that's what 3 guys. As Michaelis might be in his 30s, so
Yeah,
3 or 4 guys in
he's in
their
his 30s too.
30s. Four of their 5 rotation pieces are in their 30s, but um, it's not like they're all old pitchers. The 3, Martinez, Michaelis, and Cam are kind of still in their peak physical prime. Obviously, Adam Wainwright is kind of ageless, and Jack Flaherty is only going to get better. So it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see kind of how that rotation continues to figure itself out. Looking at the bullpen that they've got set up for this season, uh, I like Jordan Hicks to be their closer. I know he's kind of had a little bit of bumps and bruises as a closer in the past, but the man throws well over 100, and he throws well over 100 consistently. Um, and I believe he throws a sinker over 100. I don't know how people can hit that. It's definitely a feat. But I like him as the closer. I like Giovanni Gallegos as kind of a setup man. Like Andrew Miller is to be more or less kind of what he was in Cleveland for them. Kind of a very high leverage slash setup guy slash get a few spot saves here and there. I like John Gant, Ryan Helsley, Tyler Webb, and Cody Whitley to be more of their middle rotation guys. Would be interesting to see which one of those guys kind of shines, kind of outshines the others, and kind of turns into their main go-to, as we say with the Yankees, kind of gains that circle of trust for the big games in October. It'll be interesting to see which one of those guys, if any, if all, do it. And then I like Alex Reyes and Daniel Ponce de Leon, who's another former State College Spikes prospect. I like those two to be long relievers. I think they're both going to get plenty of spot starts, especially with how this season figures to go. Um, it's possible they could go to a 6-man rotation, in which I could see one of those two picking up a potential starting spot. I think they'll go with Ponce de Leon before they would go to Reyes. Um, Interesting to think about how, just a couple years ago, Alex Reyes was seen as one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. And he's had a couple injuries back to back years where like the Cardinals were like, all right, this is the year. He's coming up. He's here. He's going to do his thing, and then he kind of got hurt. But it'll be interesting to see if maybe he can, now that he can get another full season under his belt. It'll be interesting to see if he can maybe work his way back to a rotation spot or not.
Yeah, absolutely. My bullpen pretty much looks the same as yours. I think the Cardinals are actually going to go closer by committee to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have a set guy right now going into spring training. Um, Ideally, I would think Jordan Hicks probably would be the front runner. But Hicks did have Tommy John surgery recently, and I
Mhm.
think the Cardinals are going to want to kind of work him back slowly, especially because of how fast he throws. Um,
Yeah,
you don't want that elbow to blow up on you again a second
exactly.
time. So I feel like where the Cardinals are right now, really any of these guys could be the closer going into opening day. Um, I think Giovanni Gallegos may have an upper hand, maybe even Andrew Miller. Miller does have experience, but Gallegos is the younger pitcher. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't be shocked if the Cardinals let Gallegos take some of the closing duties to start the season.
Yeah.
Um, and if he thrives up there, you know, let him keep at it. But I've got Giovanni Gallegos and Andrew Miller and the back end of that bullpen to start off. And then from there, it's kind of a toss up of where you want to throw guys. And I think Jordan Hicks, like I said, will end up in the back end of the bullpen as well. But they got Ryan Helsley, Daniel Ponce de Leon, and Ponce de Leon is a starter by a trade, but
Mhm.
he can be out of the bullpen. Alex Reyes, I think they imagine that he'll be a starter too at some point down the line. Tyler Webb can even be a starter. And this is kind of what I was talking about, how they have young guys who are capable of taking rotation spots if absolutely necessary. John Gant also falls into that category. So the Cardinals are pretty set. Their bullpen can be extremely flexible. They can throw guys in and out wherever they want to throw them. And then they have some younger guys like Genesis Cabrera
Yep.
down in the minor, or I don't know, Cabrera could compete for a roster spot too, especially if there's an injury. I could easily see him being in that opening day bullpen. But
Mhm.
again, I think the Cardinals are pretty set with what they've got. They have the bullpen is really anywhere they want to put these guys, they can put these guys, and they're probably going to dominate or they're probably going to show up. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of who's going to actually be the closer on opening day. Could be Miller, could be Gallegos, could be Hicks, um, could even be Alex Reyes.
Yeah.
We don't know. I feel like it's still very much a very open position, and
Mhm.
Mike Schild is going to have a nice little competition there to see who's going to actually win out that job. It'll be fun to see who does win out that job come opening day.
Yeah, and what's really important is the fact that they've been able to keep essentially the exact same pitching group as what they had last season. Last season, this was a team that finished fourth in ERA. These are NL standings. They finished fourth in ERA in the National League. They finished first in hits allowed. I know they played two less games than other teams, but they still finished first in hits allowed. They finished second in runs allowed. They finished fourth in home runs allowed. They finished sixth in walks and finished 13th in strikeouts. So it'll be interesting to see. Um, Obviously, that leads to a really good whip as a team. You keep runners off base, give your guys more opportunities to come to the dish. Drive in some ribbies. So I think it'll be interesting to see if this bullpen and more importantly this rotation can kind of keep up what they've done. What they were able to do last season. If they can keep that up this year, I think they could be in a great position to maybe compete with the Dodgers. Anything can
Yeah,
happen in a 7-game series. The Braves and Dodgers are kind of the two big bullies. Obviously, the Padres,
yeah.
but I'm the jury's still out on that. But I think it's very possible that if their pitching staff can kind of do what they did last year, they should be in a great spot to compete.
I mean, the Cardinals have proved over the years they don't need stars in their bullpen or in their rotation to compete. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at some of those teams that have won World Series, and at best, they were maybe on paper above average, a little above average. They weren't like standout guys all around.
Hmm.
Just goes to show that the Cardinals have a really good system going. There's a really good book, and this is a book I've been wanting to read for a while. I've read some like excerpts of it, but I haven't read the whole thing. It has to do with like the Cardinal way of playing baseball. Um, I don't know what the exact title is called, but
Hmm.
it's the Cardinal way, and they seem to have a really good mastery of how to do things like this. And I agree with you. I think that they could be a team that does compete with the top dogs, even though maybe looking from the naked eye at what they have right now and um, like nothing really stands out. but it's the Cardinals. They're the Yankees of the National League.
Mm-hmm.
You can never
Yep.
rule them out. They
Yep.
they know how to do they just know how to do operations the right way. They know how to develop their
Yep.
talent. They know how to get the most out of guys that people wouldn't see a lot of. And another thing too, they got two Gold Glovers at at the corners of their
Yeah.
infield, and
Yep.
Goldie and Arenado. And it'll be interesting to see if Arenado can get a ninth straight Gold Glove on top.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Cardinals pitching there, they don't have a lot to worry about. They can pitch,
Oh.
they can pitch to contact, and
Oh yeah.
most likely they're gonna have someone back there to help them out. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun to see that.
Yeah, Jason Mott of those early 2010s Cardinals teams. He was another Spikes guy too.
Yep.
I got to see him when he was younger. So we'll jump over to how their prospects look. This is still a really really deep prospect pool that they have. Just kind of looking at it on the surface, I absolutely felt like I needed to cover Matthew Liberatore. He was, one of their big grabs last season uh, from Tampa Bay. I guess when he was still in high school, there was a little bit of worries about him potentially not being able to transfer his skills over to like a professional setting. So he was listed as one of the best prep pitchers in the country, but because of some of those scout words, he ended up falling to 16th overall in 2018, where the Rays were happy to snag him there. Um, to this point, he's played mostly just rookie and A ball. He's only pitched in 24 games, owner of a 2.59 ERA in a 111 innings. He actually has a complete game, which for rookie
Nice.
ball and A ball, that's really impressive these days. A 113 strikeouts, so a 9.2 K per nine, 1.216 WHIP, so a decent WHIP. Um, he's only given up 2 home runs in those 111 innings, so he can keep the ball on the ground, keep the ball in the park. Um, from what I was able to read on his skills, it looks like he has a great kind of 10 to 5 curveball. That figures to be a plus. Right now, it's sitting in the high 70s in terms of velo. His fastball right now is sitting right around low 90s. He has been able to hit 95 at various times. They think that because he's only 21, his fastball is only going to get faster. He's got a plus changeup, and they say that his slider could be a really good out pitch. It's sitting right now right around the low 80s in terms of velo. So it's not often you see a guy who's 21 that already has 4 good pitches. He's a guy that's as of this point has a really good repertoire. He still needs some time to hone his craft. I think he's going to see a lot of time in high A ball or double A ball this season. I would look for him probably, depending on maybe what happens with some of their bullpen pieces, some of the guys who can start games, depending on what happens with them, whether they leave in free agency or trade or something like that. And I think more importantly, what happens with Adam Wainwright will kind of determine whether or not he makes his debut next season as a starter, or if they kind of wait and give him one extra year. The next guy I want to look at is their number 18 prospect. And this is the 19-year-old center fielder, Trey Fletcher. I believe his real name is Trey J. It's like Trejay, but he just goes by Trey. He was a second round pick in 2019. To this point, he's only played 43 games of professional ball, all of which in rookie. Is the owner of 4 home runs, 26 RBIs, 7 steals, a 244 average. So nothing that's going to jump off the charts at you quite yet. Um, he is listed as a premier athlete. He's got raw power, great speed, and great arm strength. So all the tools you need to play center field. And what really kind of struck me was the fact that he's actually been able to run his fastball up to 93, and he's flashed a hard slider on the mound. So could be a potential two-way player, especially a two-way player who's a hitter first and a pitcher second. I know that most of the two-way players we see nowadays, teams are more interested in their pitching capabilities than their hitting.
Mm-hmm.
Shohei Ohtani is probably going to flip-flop and be more of a hitter and a pitcher secondary. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where Trey Fletcher goes. People are looking at him as a potential 2020 outfielder, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he continues to develop. The third prospect who was unable to crack their top 30 is Delvin Perez. He's a 22-year-old shortstop. He's another guy. I saw him plenty of times in 2018 when he was playing with the State College Spikes. His numbers say otherwise, but he passes the eye test for me. So I wanted to make sure I covered him. He was actually the 23rd overall pick in 2016. He's got good speed, 259 career minor league games. He only has 2 home runs, so he's definitely kind of a slightly slower D. Gordon comp, I would say. Owner of 47 stolen bases, still has a little bit of a strikeout issue. He's got 223 strikeouts in 259 games, 252 batting average. He figures to probably see AA into AAA time this season. He is a non-roster invitee to the Cardinals club, so they're at least going to give him an opportunity to maybe win a bench job, or at least learn something from some of the guys who are going to make the major league roster. What's interesting is kind of the 2-year slump that he had. He's never played more than 64 games in a season. In 2016, he hit 294 in rookie ball. Then he hit 203 the next year, 34 games. 2018, he hit 213 in 64 games. That was his year in State College. And then in 2019, he hit 269 in 18 games. So like he had the 294 average, and then it was bad. And then he must have done something to get that average back up to a little more respectable number. But he did steal 22 bases last year. Kind of his first big breakout as far as stolen bases go. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where they view him moving forward. I think he's not necessarily a guy to watch in spring training, but keep an eye on him. It is possible that he could maybe sneak in as a bench role for the club this year.
Absolutely, you got to look out for those unranked guys, those lower ranked
Yep.
guys. They can sneak in there. They're just as good. There's a reason they're at the Pro Bowl level.
Sure.
So 3 guys I want to look at. The first guy I want to take a look at is their number 4 prospect, Ivan Herrera. He's a catcher. He's 20 years old. He's in advanced single A right now. He'll likely go to double A, start the season. But across his minor league career, 166 games, he's a 309 hitter. And
Okay.
I know that catchers aren't really valued as a hitting prowess anymore, but this guy can hit. He's got a 397 on base percentage, so he gets on base pretty consistently as well. 11 home runs up to this point, 99 RBI, 130 strikeouts, but he has walked 69 times, so he's pretty balanced there for the most part, and a 431 slugging percentage. The Cardinals have 2 catchers in their system that look like they're going to probably compete for time when Yadier Molina retires. I think Herrera is probably their go-to guy right now. They have another prospect in the system, Ali Sanchez, who has had very brief major league experience, but I think this is the guy who will be their catcher for the future. He could even show up at some point this year if he's doing really well down in Double A and maybe makes the jump to Triple A. There's a chance that he could make the team as like a September call-up potentially, or maybe be on watch to make an opening day spot next year. So this is a guy to keep an eye on if you're a Cardinals fan. The other guy I wanted to talk about, and I noticed that you have him in your opening day bullpen, Cody Whitley. He's the number 14 prospect. He did get a brief stint in the major leagues last year, did very well, recorded an ERA below 2 in that stretch. In his minor league career, he is a relief pitcher, by the way. 7-6 in the minors, 2.01 ERA, 104 games on his belt. He has 20 saves, so he does have some closing capabilities. 1.18 WHIP, but he has 168 strikeouts, 49 walks, and 156 and 2/3 innings, and he's only given up 5 homers in his minor league career. And the kid is 25 years old.
Yeah.
So he's older on the prospect side, but he's only given up 5 home runs, and he's pictured below on my side. I think this is a guy who, of the top prospects, probably, or of the top pitching prospects they have, this guy I think has the highest ceiling to make the
Hmm.
opening day roster. And if he doesn't make the opening day roster, he should at least be on the team. He should be one of the first call-ups on the team if there's an injury or if someone ends up getting DFA'd, designated
Hmm.
for assignment. But I'm really high on this guy. I think that I like what he's done so far. I think the Cardinals are really high on him as well. I could easily see him making a big impact on the team at some point this year. The third prospect I want to look at is a guy named Lucan Baker. He's a first baseman. He's currently at the Double-A level. He might go to Triple-A this year. He's 23 years old. He has 167 games on his belt. He's not the best hitter, 264 lifetime average in the minor leagues. He has a 3.43 on base percentage. The offensive numbers, I was kind of looking at it, and I think this guy is more of a leadoff hitter or a top of the order guy, maybe bottom of the order. Only 14 homers and 75 RBI across 167 games, which I mean, in a full season, that's basically a full major league season.
Hmm.
So that could be. I'm not sure where the Cardinals minor leagues have had him in the batting orders, but just kind of looking at where he's at, I imagine he's maybe a lower middle of the order guy, maybe top of the order. 147 strikeouts, 71 walks, 409 slugging percentage. Baker, I think, probably will get a spring training invite. I haven't looked to see who the Cardinals are inviting to spring training yet. I noticed the Dodgers are inviting like 15 of their top 30 prospects. I think the
Wow.
Cardinals are probably going to invite a lot of their guys in
Hmm.
the top 30 to spring training as well. I know they have Goldschmidt manning the first base corner, so Baker's chances of making the team, he might need to go to a new position if he's going to be
Hmm.
on the team, unless if Goldschmidt gets injured. Um, or this could be the Cardinals could use him as a trade piece maybe later on. And to be honest, I was looking at some of the Cardinals prospect hands in the Nolan Arenado deal. I'm surprised they got away with Austin Gomber being their biggest giveaway.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
part of me kind of thinks, and I could be wrong, but I think Lucan Baker was actually in that initial deal. I think he was one of the guys that the
He
Rockies
might. Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't remember how it went, but this could be a guy that if the Cardinals feel more comfortable going with Goldschmidt, which I imagine because they signed him to that 5-year deal, they're going to stick with him.
Hmm.
The only way he makes a team is if he learns, if he goes to a new position, which likely would be the outfield, or
Yep.
if he's to get traded. But I think this guy could be closer to major league level ball sooner rather than later. He's got a Luke Voigt kind of feel to me, just without
Okay.
the power.
Yeah.
And Voigt did break into the Cardinals system
He
before
did.
going to the Yankees. And it was a similar situation there. The Cardinals they had Matt Carpenter at first
Yep.
base. He was kind of like their guy. They traded Voigt to give him some time to play in the majors. I have a feeling they might do the same with Baker, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the team at some point this year too. Because like I said, he'll probably start the year in AAA, but if he posts good numbers in AAA, he could easily find himself on the bench, maybe get some spot starts here and there. But again, with Goldie Manning first, he's probably going to have to go to the outfield and learn some outfield if he's going to
Hmm.
actually be on the team this year. But yeah, those are my three prospects. And again, Cardinals are really good at developing
Oh
talent.
yeah. Oh yeah.
They're just you can pretty much keep your eye on any of those prospects from the
Yep.
30 list, and then even the guys like Delvin Perez.
Yep.
Cardinals fans always have something to be excited about when they have someone coming up to the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is year in and year out. It seems like they always have three or four guys, literally every single year, who, flash something and give fans really something to be excited for the future. They're
Mm-hmm.
just always stacked.
Exactly.
All right. Looking at how we kind of project the St. Louis Cardinals finishing out, um, I see a floor of at least 88 and 74. Um, essentially what I'm saying here is they're at least a 90 win team. I think that if injuries kind of play a role, maybe they lose Carlos Martinez or maybe maybe Kim's not, maybe Kim regresses some, maybe Adam Wainwright, maybe Father Time finally gets him. Um, it's possible that they could finish as low as 88 and 74, but like I said, it's just something about the Cardinals. Even when they rebuild, they still have winning records, it seems like. So I think that now with them, pretty much knee deep in competition, they're going to be competitive uh, day in and day out this year. So I see a floor of at least 88 and 74. With that said, I'm also realistic. The Cardinals are never really, since their post Albert Pujols era, they haven't really been like the best NL team. I know they've won a World Series since then, but they haven't really been like, like the Dodgers have been the last couple of years where they're, just the best team in the NL. I think they'll probably finish behind the Braves, the Dodgers, and the Padres in terms of record. So I see them as probably about the fourth best team in the NL, which is, right where they want to be.
Hmm.
The Cardinals love being, kind of counted out. They love being voted against. That's kind of where they thrive. So I could see 98 and 64 being a ceiling. The rotation's good. The bullpen's good. Nolan Arenado comes in and he's, flashing the glove at third, swinging it across, and him and Goldie are hitting bombs left and right out there to Big Mac land. So it'll be a fun summer for the
Yeah,
Cardinals.
yeah. It just to echo what you said, the Cardinals, they are always in it no matter
Yep.
what. Even since Albert Pujols era, they didn't win a World Series since he left. They went in
Oh yeah, yeah,
in
that's right.
2013 they lost to
That's
the
right.
Red Sox,
Yep.
but
He was there
I
for
mean,
2011.
but they have consistently been a league championship series presence. They've consistently
Hmm.
been a postseason presence. I know they had from 2016 to 2018 was kind of, I guess, mediocre to their standards.
Yep.
But since Mike Schill took the helm, they have been a completely different ball club. Um, I think they are the best team in the Central. I know the Central is very much up for grabs right now. There's like four teams that could
Hmm.
realistically win that division. That's why than years 83 and
Hmm.
79, just because if this team does endure a lot of injuries, I think the injuries could affect them, especially if they lose guys like Arenado and Goldschmidt. That could definitely take a toll on them. But those guys are relatively healthy. They do a good job staying
Yes.
healthy throughout
Yep.
the years. So I'm not too worried about it being at that point. I think 94 and 68 seems a little more realistic because, like you said, I think the Braves and the Padres and the Dodgers are going to be better um, to a degree. I think the Cardinals, at least for the Central, are the best team. They're probably like
Hmm.
the third or fourth best team in the league,
Yep.
in the National League. That is 94 and 68 is still a very
Oh
respectable
yeah,
record though
very
for them.
respectable.
That's still like
Hmm.
that still could easily win them the division, if not the
Oh
top
yeah.
wild card.
Yep.
But I really like what St. Louis is doing. I'm excited for them. It's really hard to hate on the Cardinals, especially because they have the best fans and the best fan base in baseball.
Yeah.
They show up everywhere they go. They're very as far as talking to the fan base goes, they're
Yep.
very respectable.
Yep.
Even I know that I kind of joked yesterday about how maybe Cubs fans not so much, but
Yeah.
even to Cubs fans,
Yeah.
they're still polite at least to them.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think this is going to be a good year for the Cardinals. I think they will end up winning the division. But 83 to 94 wins seems like a really good floor to ceiling ratio for them.
Yeah. Uh, Jimmy, just they have great fans. Their front office is always extremely smart. I mean, they got drugged through the streets. The front office did when they let Albert Pujols walk. A lot of fans thought that they probably could have offered, if not beat, what Los Angeles gave him. But I mean, you look at Albert Pujols, literally the year after he left. Now, maybe it has something to do with leaving. Maybe that's why his numbers kind of deflated a little bit. But he never hit. I don't think he ever hit above like 280 in Los Angeles. He hit over 30 home runs, maybe three times in the life of his contract. So they're always playing it smart. They not only did they not give up big prospects to get Nolan Arenado, but the Rockies gave them $50 million to cover it as well.
Exactly.
So I was talking to a Rockies fan on our Instagram page yesterday, and she was relatively upset that the Rockies kind of got fleeced a little bit, but she's excited for the Cardinals. I'm excited for the Cardinals, and it figures to be a great year for them.
Exactly.
All right, so it's that time again. You can find us on all of our different social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at Real Dugout Talk. You can find us on Twitter at Dugout Talk One. You can find us on Instagram at Real Dugout Talk, and you can find us on YouTube at Dugout Talk. Um, it's nice to know that we've really. I know sometimes when you start a podcast or something like this, it's really hard to find a good name. I love Dugout Talk. I think it's a fantastic name. And I think I think it could be a really, really good brand to kind of build ourselves off of in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly how I got the name. Um,
Hmm.
it's it's just more I thought it was kind of unique.
Hmm.
I got it years ago when I was doing like independent blogging, and I figured, well, I've got the name. I'm not gonna say I own the naming rights, but I
Hmm.
do have the naming rights to it. And no one else had taken it, so I was like,
Yeah,
you know what? Why not? Um, I think it's a good name too, especially for uh, just kind of what we talk about. It's a unique name
absolutely.
for
Yeah.
sure. I know that's not like our group chat name with the real sport guys
No.
on it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's still
Well,
just
kind of when we first started, this was like right before. This was like the year before John Boy got really, really big.
yeah,
Um, and so I originally we had thought about doing a podcast like 2 years ago. And at that point, I was thinking up names, and I'm like, well, our group chat's name is We Talking Baseball, like without the G in talking. And so I'm like, why don't we just do that? So I set up an email for it. I set up a YouTube page for it. I think I set up a Facebook page for it. Um, and we just never really got around to it. It was kind of one of those things that was like, oh yeah, I would do a podcast, but then no one actually ever did it. We just kind of put it off for a bit, and then I think it was literally that summer, like literally later that summer, that John Boy and Talking Baseball really blew up across the whole country and across the whole world. And so once I realized that like they had that, and I'm like, well, great. Even though I've had this name for like 6 months now, I'd never heard of John Boy before. I'm like, great. Now people are going to be like, oh, you're just copying his name now, and I'm sure they'll probably get naming rights, and then they'll copyright me or something like that. So I had to put that on the back burner for a bit. But I'm glad we found a great name.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, well, again, thank you guys for joining us today. We're gonna wrap up the Central tomorrow with the
Yep,
Cubbies.
Cubbies.
Give our standings predictions as well. Be sure to share your thoughts with us, how you think the Central is gonna go down. If you have any thoughts on the Cubs, we should know about. Please let us know on our social media pages again.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
See you guys.